I don't know about you, but I am tired of young people graduating without real world skills. Are you frustrated by education that seems to perhaps prepare the minds but leaves hands idle? St. John Bosco didn't just teach boys about faith, he gave them the tools to build their futures. His approach was so effective that it transformed an entire city, and his wisdom can transform how you think about education, mentorship, and preparing the next generation. The Miracles and Prophecies of St. John Bosco, a project of America Needs Fatima. I'm your host, Adrian Fonseca. Subscribe for new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Welcome to the Miracles and Prophecies of St. John Bosco. I'm Adrian Fonseca. These videos exist to share Don Bosco's timeless wisdom that can transform your spiritual life and inspire you to grow closer to Christ and Our Lady. Today's story shows how to bridge the gap between spiritual formation and practical preparation. Whether you're a parent wondering how to prepare your children for the real world, or an educator seeking better methods, or perhaps someone who mentors others, Don Bosco's approach offers a blueprint that still works today. True education must prepare both the soul and the hands. Don Bosco understood that faith without practical skills leaves young people vulnerable, while skills without faith create workers without character. His genius was in combining both. As we explore this story, ask yourself, how can I better prepare the young people in my life, whether my own children, students, or those I mentor, for both spiritual and practical success? And later in this video, I'll share some exciting news about our brand new gifts for monthly promoters of St. John Bosco that will bring his wisdom directly into your home. Don Bosco's oratory is bursting at the seams with young men. Some are brilliant students, but many others, they're not cut out for the academic life. So what does Don Bosco do? He has an amazing idea. Why not train these boys in actual trades? He starts building workshops everywhere. Blacksmiths, tailors, shoemakers, bookbinders, cabinet makers, printers, even dyers and hatters. But here's the thing. This wasn't just about learning a skill. Don Bosco created strict regulations that made each craftsman responsible not only for teaching the trade, but for the boys' discipline and moral conduct as well. Now, you'd think this system would just run smoothly, right? Well, in 1862, Don Bosco faced his first major test. The trouble started in the blacksmith workshop. You see, St. Eligius is the patron saint of blacksmiths, and traditionally, craftsmen would celebrate his feast day with a little party. Two craftsmen that Don Bosco had hired from outside the oratory were used to this tradition, and they wanted to continue it. So, they and their apprentices started planning. Everyone chipped in for food and drinks, just a harmless celebration, right? Wrong. When Don Bosco heard about the party, he immediately said no. Remember, he had regulations. Article 3 of his regulations were crystal clear. Quote, smoking, drinking wine, playing cards, and such games are absolutely forbidden, end quote. Don Bosco wasn't being a killjoy. He was protecting his boy's future. But these craftsmen weren't used to being told what to do. They were impatient with the rules and, frankly, they thought they could get away with it. So they went ahead with their little celebration anyway, probably hoping that Don Bosco wouldn't find out. But of course he did, and Don Bosco didn't react in anger. He waited, thought it through, and the next day he gave his orders to the prefect. The young boys who had participated were called in, shown their mistake, and sent home temporarily. It was a firm but fair lesson. Eventually the boys came back. They begged for forgiveness and promised to obey. Don Bosco welcomed them back with open arms. But the two adult craftsmen? Don Bosco refused to rehire them. Now you might be thinking, wasn't that a bit harsh? Why was he stricter with the adults than with the boys? Here's the thing. Those craftsmen held these boys' future in their hands. These young men were learning not just how to work with iron or leather, but how to be men of character. The adults were supposed to be responsible, to be role models, mentors, and protectors. When they chose to disobey and influence the boys to do the same, they proved that they couldn't be trusted with that responsibility. And you know what? Sometimes it seemed like God himself backed up Don Bosco's decision. Joseph Riano, one of Don Bosco's boys, tells us what happened next. Once, by San Denazoza's church, I met a craftsman who had been dismissed from the oratory. "Riano," he said to me, "I want you to know I'll get even with Don Bosco and Father Savio." "Why tell me?" I replied. "I'd rather know nothing about it. It only upsets me." He kept up his threats until I interrupted him. "Listen, let bygones be bygones," I said. "I can't set myself up as a judge. You have a job, don't you? So let things take their course. Why fight Don Bosco? I wouldn't dare do so for all the money in the world." This only angered him even more, so that he even insulted me and we parted quite uncivilly. Only a few months later, his wife and later his older son left him. Within 6 months, the man himself suffered a stroke, which paralyzed his left leg and forced him to walk with a cane. A year later, a second stroke ended his life. His orphaned younger son had to struggle to get along and sometimes received help from Don Bosco. Meanwhile, divine providence was sending Don Bosco exactly the kind of craftsman that he needed. Men like JeanBaptiste Garando, a blacksmith who was both deeply religious and incredibly skilled. For years, Garando had been hiring boys that Don Bosco recommended, and they were all happy to work with him. But then financial setbacks forced him to close his shop. At 70 years old, this master craftsman found himself looking for work like an apprentice. One day, Peter Inria, one of Garando's former employees, met him in town. Peter asked how he was doing. "Well," was the reply, "I feel fine, thank God. But at the age of 70, I have to work for somebody else as if I were an apprentice." Peter's face lit up. "My good John, why don't you come to the oratory with me? I'm sure Don Bosco will be glad to have you. He has had trouble setting up a blacksmith workshop." Garando's response gives me chills. "If the Lord and Our Lady grants me this grace," Garando rejoined, "I'll never leave the oratory." Don Bosco put him in charge of the shop immediately. This good man was so overjoyed that he kept repeating, "This is heaven." Garando worked with energy of a 20-year-old, always making sure the boy's conduct was beyond reproach. Don Bosco trusted him completely. He even gave him all the ironwork for the Church of Mary Help of Christians. He lived at the oratory for 4 years, and until his dying day, he kept saying, "I bless the day Don Bosco took me into his house." Do you see what happened here? Don Bosco didn't just create a job training program. He created a system where faith and skills work together, where mentors shaped not just hands but hearts, where the right people found their calling and the wrong people revealed their true character. And speaking of Don Bosco's transformative approach and the community that he built, I have some thrilling news to share with you. We've just launched an all-new collection of our gifts for our monthly promoters of St. John Bosco, and I couldn't be more excited about what we're offering. Just as Don Bosco provided his boys with both spiritual formation and practical tools for success, we want to provide you with everything you need to deepen your relationship with this incredible saint. When you become a monthly promoter, you'll receive a daily Mass, when formerly it was a Saturday Mass, and rosary prayers for your intentions, beautiful images of Our Lady Help of Christians and St. John Bosco, and now everyone receives exclusive access to his powerful writings like Roadmap to Heaven and Sacred History. Plus, our bi-monthly Crusade magazine is delivered right to your mailbox. It's like having Don Bosco's workshop for your spiritual life. Everything you need to grow in faith while staying connected to our community. Are you ready to join this incredible mission? The link is in the description box down below right now. Think about the contrast that we just witnessed. One craftsman chose to disobey, then spent the remaining years of his life consumed with revenge, losing everything he loved and dying alone. But JeanBaptiste Garando, he embraced Don Bosco's mission wholeheartedly, found his calling at 70 years old, and called it heaven. What made the difference? Their attitude towards service, toward the mission they were a part of, toward something bigger than themselves. That craftsman who sought revenge, he would have poisoned every boy he touched. But Garando, he helped build a church with his own hands while building character in young hearts. Here's what this means for you. You don't need to run a trade school. The young people you influence, be it your children, your students, the kids in your neighborhood, they're watching you. Are you showing them that faith and hard work goes hand in hand? Are you demonstrating that real success comes from serving something larger than yourself? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I want to hear how Don Bosco's approach is inspiring your own approach to mentorship and education. And if you want to see another incredible story of an ordinary person defending extraordinary principles, watch The Cobbler Who Defended Don Bosco. The link is on your screen right now. You'll be amazed how one man's courage can be so inspiring. Thank you for joining me today. St. John Bosco, pray for us. May God bless you, and Mary Immaculate keep you under her mantle. God love you.